Uh-oh. Okay, we'll start with this. Fresh on the heels of her big win over Sky Nicholson, then WBC champion, current champion Tiara Brown has suggested that she would like to fight either Amanda Serrano or Alicia Baumgardner sometime in the not-so-distant future. And she would call out Amanda Serrano for obvious reasons, because they're both champions at the same weight. At least momentarily, Amanda holds 2 alphabet titles in the featherweight division, and let's be honest, that's the unification match that pays the most. There is one other champion at the weight, Nina Menka. Doesn't pay as much, and Nina's spoken for anyway. She's having a rematch with Daniela Bermudez. And Amanda is spoken for too. She's having a rematch with Katie Taylor. But there is widespread speculation as to whether or not she's going to retire on that, or will she briefly return to the featherweight division for one more fight. Being honest with you, I would sooner expect Amanda to sign Tiara Brown to MVP than fight her. Amanda's career is winding down. It's not about proving anything to anyone anymore. She's already done that. The 2 alphabet titles she currently holds, I expect will go vacant in the not-so-distant future, and 1 or 2 new champions will sprout as a result. Tiara can pursue fights with them. Bottom line, I don't expect Amanda Serrano versus Tiara Brown to become a thing. Now Alicia Baumgardner versus Tiara Brown, that could become a thing. It's possible. Tiara's at 126 and Alicia's at 130. She's undisputed there. Any fighter that moves into that weight class, any fighter, Tiara Brown included, if they want to win a belt, they got to go through Alicia, because she has all of them. When Tiara mentioned this fight, it wasn't for the immediate future, it was for some time down the line, though all the same. So long as Alicia is there, and she's undisputed champion, she's who Tiara has to go see. As far as the fight, and what I think would happen, well, Tiara Brown was able to fluster Sky Nicholson with her come-forward aggression and activity. And that worked against Sky, but that wouldn't work against Alicia, because Alicia has the punching power that Sky doesn't have. The inside game that Sky doesn't have. All the things that Sky is lacking, Alicia has, and then some. She's a well-rounded fighter. She can stick and move and stay on the outside just like Sky, but she can do a lot more than that. Mid-range to inside, she can throw those body shots. She can throw those uppercuts. She can hang mid-range to inside, so that if Tiara steps to her, she's not going to be flustered by it, like Sky Nicholson was. I would go with Alicia Baumgardner to win that fight comfortably. Tiara's the older fighter of the two. She's some years older than Alicia Baumgardner. She would be new to the weight in this scenario, not acclimated like Alicia, and punch for punch, I think Alicia punches harder than Tiara Brown with more accuracy. We've seen that. Alicia wins that fight. I think she does. I saw a guy on Twitter who goes by the name Richard Head say that Tiara should enjoy this while it lasts, because Sky is going to get that belt back soon. Well, how's she going to do that? She ain't got no rematch clause. The potentiality of a Nicholson versus Brown rematch hinges on what fights are available to her. I mean, Amanda's not available. Nina Menka's not available. She's not going to move up right now, not for Alicia. And Alicia's not available anyway. She's about to fight Jennifer Miranda. Now, I don't know why Sky's team didn't cover all the bases and incorporate a rematch clause into the contract. They were either very confident or very stupid.
Rematch clause is an industry standard these days.
But the reason that Sky Nicholson might get one is because there are not a lot of big-name fights out there. All the other somebodies are spoken for, and the only fight that pays anything worth anything is Sky Nicholson. At least right now. Tiara and her team and the people at OTX might want to take this victory and run.
But run where? And run to what?
Now, she can make voluntary defenses of the title until such a time as a mandatory is called, but that's only going to get you but so much money, and Tiara is in her mid-30s.
She hasn't made a big payday yet, a big purse off a fight. As a defending champion, she might, if she's willing to go back in there with Sky Nicholson.
Remember that the first time out, Tiara was the challenger and Sky was the champion. Now that the roles are reversed, she has a precedent to ask for more money. That if what Matchroom wants is for Tiara to give her a rematch, they have to pay to play. And they might.
They could do that for Sky, or they can point her in the direction of the winner of Menka versus Bermudez 2, which I anticipate is going to be Nina Menka.
Sky's not completely out in the cold here. She has one or two options that she can pursue, a rematch with Tiara or the winner of that fight. But can Tiara say the same? What are Tiara's options outside of a Sky Nicholson rematch? And what do they pay?
Elsewhere in the world of boxing, not so encouraging news as it pertains to Inoue's U.S. return. Boxing insider Rick Glacier says, told by multiple sources, Inoue tickets at the T-Mobile Arena in Vegas for May 4th on ESPN are totally dead. So dead, the tickets should be given last rites. And Team Inoue isn't happy about the promotional flop. The promoter, none other than Top Rank, that's boxing at Top Rank nowadays.
Top Rank has fast become everybody's whipping boy, whether it's Rick Glacier or Oscar De La Hoya,
who took aim at Top Rank and Todd Duboff in his latest installment of Clapback Thursday, saying, "It's so sad to see how Top Rank ended up, but this is what happens when you place your company in the hands of a scumbag, Todd Duboff."
Is that the way it is? Is Top Rank at fault here? Is it in any way their fault that the tickets for Inoue's fight aren't selling like hotcakes? I disagree with Oscar, and I disagree with Rick. How many times have you heard me say that the preeminent market for a bantamweight or a super bantamweight is in the Far East, the land of the rising sun? The Japanese have more of an audience for those particular fighters that fight at those particular weights than America. Americans historically don't watch the lighter weights, and I've long maintained that Inoue coming here is a waste of time. There's no point in it. So that when the tickets for a super bantamweight title fight aren't selling, you can't put that on Top Rank because Americans don't normally consume that content from those divisions.
They never have.
And I have long maintained that anybody in America saying that Inoue needs to come here and he needs to fight here, he needs to base himself out of America and not his native Japan where he generates millions upon millions of dollars. I was always suspicious of such individuals because I'm left wondering, you want this guy to come here so bad so that if he does, are you going to buy a ticket?
Huh?
Are you going to buy a ticket to the fight so you can be there? Because if you're not...
Shut the hell up.
I like to think of myself as a level-headed and rational individual, but it's a mistake to assume that everybody's like that, or that everybody who was asking Inoue to come to America did so because they wanted to see him in person.
They only said that because they didn't know what else to say, what else to criticize him for. When a guy's been a champion at 4 weights and undisputed in 2, he's taking on all comers. He's fighting whoever he can.
And he's fighting more often than most American-based fighters while making more money than most American-based fighters. But that never sat well with some Americans.
And that he beat Stephen Fulton, what was their last hope to upstage Japan's best. They had a lot riding on a Stephen Fulton win, and that didn't happen, so that when it doesn't, do you think Inoue earned their respect?
Sorry to tell you, but that's not the way their minds work. Inoue beating Stephen Fulton was tantamount to Tyson Fury beating Deontay Wilder. That just made them even more upset.
Tantamount to Terrence Crawford beating Errol Spence Jr. Do you think that Terrence earned their respect that night? Because he didn't. They hate him even more because he won.
The idea that a guy who's already proven so much and accomplished so much across so many divisions has to do so now in America to appease a small cluster of individuals who may or may not go to his fight.
May or may not. They're not going. Those criticisms were never made in good faith. It was never about Inoue proving something.
It was never about Inoue earning their respect. They're not going to give him their respect, no matter what he does. And that's why I thought it was a complete farce to waste Inoue's time, to take him away from his adoring public that lines his pockets so that he could come here to America where they don't watch super bantamweights anyway because they have no stake in that division. The super bantamweight division is not a division that is teeming with American talent. And where there are no Americans, there's no American audience. That's the way it is.
They're very, very tribal. Very xenophobic.
Whereas a British audience or a European audience, they're a little bit more diverse and those views carry across what content they consume. I would sooner expect Inoue to get a better reception in the UK than in the US.
So many YouTubers, so many pseudo-boxing channels, podcasts.
They create the illusion of a demand by demanding that Inoue fight here when they don't represent the consumer, the actual customer, the people that either show up to fights in person or purchase pay-per-views. Some of the biggest boxing channels actually cater to an audience that doesn't contribute anything at all to the boxing sphere. But because everything on YouTube is free, the metrics for some of those channels are actually pretty big. Robust numbers as far as YouTube goes, but never forget, this is an audience that doesn't buy anything. So while you might be able to get big numbers off of these guys on YouTube, in the real world, they don't have any real money.
There's no incentive to pander to this audience.
And thus, no real incentive to adhere to what they demand. That Inoue should fight in America for what? Who in America is doing in America what he's doing in Japan?
At 122, who is the American equivalent of Inoue? Who is this worthy adversary that he should travel so far to come here?
These people are useless. Stephen Fulton's entire reign as unified super bantamweight champion, they didn't support him. Do you think they're going to support a foreigner now?
But I thought you said they backed him to beat Inoue.
Oh yeah, they did momentarily. Their interest in Stephen Fulton was situational. Only in a situation where a foreign fighter is being hailed as a pound-for-pound great and one of the best in the sport. That because he was Japanese, they really didn't like that. So they only got behind Stephen Fulton for all of 15 seconds.
But where were these people before that? Because Stephen Fulton reigned as unified champion for some time before Inoue even moved up. And they weren't there. They weren't supporting him.
They only supported him long enough to watch Inoue beat him from pillar to post. And when he didn't earn their respect. That just made them angrier.
So believe me when I tell you, there is absolutely no reason for Inoue to come here and pander to an American audience. There's nothing in it for him. He's worth a lot of money in Japan, and Turkey El Sheikh has even more money for him. But as far as the Americans, don't waste your time.
There are so many American fighters, homegrown American fighters, that they don't support. So why the hell would they support him?
Where's your common sense?
And finally, in men's super middleweight news, McIntyre said Terence Crawford is fighting Canelo Alvarez for legacy and may then bow out.
Well, that's what I figured. If he wins the fight, he's already undisputed at super middle and would have made history. And if he loses, I hardly expect him to boil back down to 154, start a campaign down there at 37.
Brian McIntyre has little doubt that Terence Crawford will shock the world should he fight Canelo Alvarez in September. The two are on a collision course to meet in Vegas, but the Mexican must first come through Williams Skull in Saudi in May. Listen, man, we're gonna win. We're gonna win. We're going to win, said McIntyre. The trainer had just seen his super middleweight hope Lester Martinez defeat Joshawn James. When asked whether Martinez would make a good Canelo impersonator, he replied, "And we're definitely going to use him for sparring." Crawford has just had one fight at 154 on his way up to 168 from 147, where he meets Canelo, but McIntyre said it is a fight where size won't matter. No, I'm not worried about size, he said. I'm not worried about that. Terrence has got a great eye at boxing and a great boxing IQ. The only person who can beat Terrence is himself. Of course, it's human nature to be worried. And with a great guy like Canelo, but knowing how Bud is, knowing what he's capable of doing, and I know he's doing this for legacy, and he wanted to do this to prove everybody wrong, he'll be all right. Asked whether this was a bigger challenge than Errol Spence, arguably Crawford's previous best win, McIntyre nodded, yeah, oh yeah, just look at the level of accomplishments. Then asked whether Crawford, who turns 38 in September, could bow out having had the legacy fight and sail off into the sunset. McIntyre said, yeah, it probably could be the last one. It probably could, yeah.
So these are not guys that are disrespecting Canelo, like so many others have before them in pursuit of a Canelo Alvarez fight. They understand they're dealing with one of the greats, one of the great fighters of today.
I agree with Brian McIntyre when he says that Terrence is doing this for legacy, because if it were just about money, then he would have took Conor McGregor up on his offer, something about a 2-fight engagement, 1 boxing match, and 1 match in the octagon. If it were just about money, he would have took that. He can lose in the octagon. The built-in excuse is that he's not an MMA fighter. If it were just about money.
It's not just about money, like so many suggest. Canelo Alvarez's fans have become increasingly hostile as this fight becomes a possibility.
Even though Terrence and his team have never disrespected Canelo Alvarez, they acknowledge he's one of the greats, and that's why they want to fight him. In pursuit of greatness, the stark contrast between how some other fighters are treated by their home audience and how Terrence is treated is likely why he's still hungry and up for a challenge like this one. Compare how the Japanese receive Inoue to how the Americans receive Terrence. You know, Inoue's a 4-weight champion just like Terrence, and he's been undisputed at 2 weights just like Terrence. But in his neck of the woods, he is adored. Whereas here in America,
Terrence is torn down by his own people.
So after being a champion at 4 weights and undisputed in 2, 37 going on 38 years old, there are only so many situations that are going to get your juices going, juices flowing, situations that excite you and dare you to be even better than you have been. This Canelo Alvarez fight is just such a situation.
That's why I like it. Because here you have not just one great fighter, but 2 great fighters, 2 serious professionals, 2 legacy guys in the legacy sense. Canelo's legacy is on the line. If he can't beat this guy, or if he can't put him down, if he can't put him out, it hurts his legacy.
You know, Terrence could go up there and get a draw, and that would be enough. Go up there and get a draw against the man to beat, the naturally bigger, younger fighter in Canelo Alvarez, and that would be enough.
Let alone winning.
On the opposite side of the coin, you may be biting off more than you can chew, and you don't realize it because you're blinded by your ambition. That this may be a mountain too high to climb, and Canelo's going to put you out. He's going to put you down. They say Canelo isn't knocking people out as much as he used to, but these are naturally bigger guys, bigger, younger guys than Terrence that aren't new to super middleweight.
They ain't jumping up from 154 up to 168 like he is.
So even if Canelo isn't knocking those guys out as much as he used to, does he need to knock out Terrence Crawford at what will be 38 years old? It's intriguing. The whole thing is intriguing.
I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to seeing what happens when you put 2 fighters of this caliber in the same ring.